just preliminary, the recommendations I'll make to the committee. Mr. Reyes-Gavilan, this is the first time you'll have done a budget with me. We'll always bring the recommendations to the agency head before I bring them to the committee, out of a courtesy, so that you can see and you can tell us if we've gotten something in your opinion is wrong. That's wrong. All right. It looks like if we can scrape together some of the savings that might not be needed for the MLK Library and direct it instead to the Cleveland Park Library to give it in that community a modernization consistent with the others. And then I would be happy to work with your staff and you, Mr. Reyes-Gavilan, about what we do with the $9 million that is sitting out there in 16 and what we do with that in terms of planning and to get timelines for both Lamont Riggs and Southwest. And so what we can do is, if we really want to facilitate, if the land disposition issues are not in your hands, if they are in the hands of, say, DGS, I'd be happy to work on language that gives DGS timelines and reporting requirements to update you on the status going forward so you can plan your capital budget accordingly. Because if you're not in charge of these sites and if you don't know, you all are kind of flying a little blindly. All right? One last thing on DGS. There are just wild differences in operating costs, and this may seem like minutia, but money adds up. Wild differences in operating costs between libraries of similar size in terms of fixed costs. You have the Watha Daniel Shaw facility, which opened in 2010, which has 22,800 square feet with annual fixed costs of $183,000. But you have, the Juanita Thornton Shepherd Park of the similar size, 23,000 at $45,000 annual fixed costs, and Tinleytown, which of course is also brand new, 23,000 square feet, at 72,000. What accounts for such? I mean, why would a brand new Tinleytown fixed costs be less than half of a brand new Watha Daniels fixed costs, and the Tinley facility is 200 square feet bigger? Just out of curiosity, I mean, that is essentially a whole person in terms of staff, right? Why is that the case, Mr. Vecchio? Can you help me?
Sure. It's their numbers. We ourselves always struggle to understand. We get estimates at the beginning of the fiscal year from the Department of General Services on those annual costs. We are and we continue to work with DGS and most recently with the DC Sustainable Utility Group on running true audits of how much energy these buildings are using.
Aren't they not separately metered? I mean, there have to be. And it's just a curiosity. Again, Anacostia is the same size, 23,000 square feet. It's a fraction of the cost of Watha Daniels. The Francis Gregory Library, 22,000 square feet, $49,000. But then you've got the Binning Library, which is the same size, at $116,000. I mean, there's money that's kind of floating around. And wouldn't you have separately metered buildings? And doesn't Pepco send us a bill? And can't we kind of add that up, just out of curiosity? Like, what do you got? You got your water bill, you got your electric bill, you got your gas bill.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
I mean, can't you just add them up and say this is kind of how much it is?
One would think the
right.
bills are. Every utility is separately metered. It's all sent directly to DGS and handled through DGS. We don't pay or cut a check every month for those utility bills.
All right. It might make a nice. It might make nice Budget Support Act language to ask for the organic bills of each of your facilities, so that you can see for yourself. And I'm not asking you all to conspire against your own government, but I mean, it seems to me that every penny is a prisoner, and it doesn't make sense to have these wild swings. And I found the best way to run an agency is to understand from the bottom up where every cent is going. Mr. Reyes-Gavilan, tell me about your programs and partnerships office.